Pastor Roy Gerhardt from Galloway United Methodist Church in Franklin, Pennsylvania, sharing a few words of encouragement to help us follow after Jesus. Well, hey, it's a Tuesday for two, and so we're looking at the ways in which God is leading us in our relationship with Him and our relationships with each other. Yesterday, we got introduced to Ezra, who is a priest who's leading the people of God back from the Babylonian exile to Judah and Jerusalem. And they're beginning to rebuild. They're starting to rebuild, first of all, the temple. And we took note of the way in which people responded to that. Old people who had been there in the old days, 70 years previous, and who had seen the temple before and knew their life there before all the destruction, before the exile took them away from home. Many of them wept. Oh, they wept when they saw the new foundation laid. They wept with a grief over the loss of what had been, and a grief over all of the things that the people had done in contributing to that judgment of God that befell them. There's a grief that causes them to just weep and mourn. And yet, this is touched with a joy in the fact that they're back and there is a new thing. This is like life is coming back, and it's a joy that for many people, they just are consumed in that. They are just absolutely wrapped up in the joy of this new engagement with life. And what this helped me to recognize is that for 70 years of exile, these people had been going through the motions, but had been going nowhere. They'd had to adjust to all the new things. They'd had to deal with all the stresses of living in a place that they couldn't call home. They were dealing with all of the adjustments to how do you worship God and be devoted to God in this foreign land. They had done all of those things, but really for 70 years they had been living in a place where they were going through the motions but going nowhere. They were surviving. And so even though they had fallen into patterns that may well have been good and constructive throughout that time, it was something that was just something to survive, something to get through and wait for a better day. It reminded me of this. This is what I woke up thinking about this morning, is the way in which we in our lives and in our relationships with God and with each other can fall into these patterns that really are just a survival pattern. We're just going through the motions, but going nowhere. We get through the week. We take care of all the tasks at hand. We do all the things that we have to do. It's like the husband and wife who take on all the week's tasks. They get up and they each know their job. They do all these things and they share all of this and they say goodnight and they wait for the next day and they get through the week and they wait for the next week to begin and it starts all over. Or going to school, you get through your daily schedule, class to class, subject to subject, get the work all done, but you're just waiting for the end of the day. Not really engaged, not really, bought in, but instead it's just something that you get through and you try to make the best of, and you're finding, a good rhythm to work with it, but it's not something that you're really living in joy in it. And this really spoke to me. I mean, even as a pastor, listen, I find myself sometimes getting so caught up in managing the affairs of the church and reading the scripture to get ready for the next teaching session or the next sermon that it's like, wait a minute, where did the joy go in all of this? Where did spending time in the presence of Jesus, where did being consumed with a love for Him and a joy of salvation, where did that go? Did it get lost in the shuffle? Did it lose that sense of the newness of what God is doing and of how God is leading in life in a purposeful way? What about our relationships? The going through the motion survival mode, that does it get interrupted with real joy in that other person in your life, whether it's a spouse or a best friend? Are you engaged with people and with living in a way that allows joy to really be fostered and thrive? There's something about us that needs that engagement. Janice and I have been on vacation and the last week, and the biggest trip, the biggest outing that we've had has been getting our bikes out and going for a ride. And you know something? I realized how much I have missed that. Riding along and chatting with each other, just talking about life and sharing something together that is so not just get the job done, not just survive, but be together, care, talk, hear, listen. There's got to be a joy point in your life in who God is and who those other people are, and a rejoicing in life shared that's not just surviving, not just going through the motions, but going nowhere. May God bless you today, and as you share his good news, may God make you a blessing wherever he takes you.